So bringing that and making that my brand is what I want to do in the cannabis industry is not only to educate, but to show people that just because you don't understand something or because it may seem fearful doesn't mean you have to be fearful. Fear is
Mhm.
just the sense of unknowing. If you don't know something, you're naturally going to be fearful of it. I see a lot of that when it comes to cannabis. So Planet Nibiru is here to quell those fears and educate the people.
All right. So we are here today with DJ from Planet Nebiru. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that was right. That was right.
Awesome. I was coming into this, I didn't know like 50-50 if I was going to completely butcher that. So I'm really glad. And, I did a little bit of kind of like research on what Planet Nebiru is
Yeah.
from like the legend and lore side of things. Um, got really interested and went down some like pretty cool YouTube rabbit
Yep.
holes. Do you want to kind of go into that and kind of explain a little bit like what kind of intrigued you about that? What made you kind of run with the Planet Nibiru like lore, name, theme, and kind of introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah. Yeah, I can do that. I'd hate to be the authority on these type of things, but I'm the one on the podcast. I'm the one over here being interviewed. So, either way, my name is DJ. Yes, DJ from Planet Nibiru. That Planet Nibiru, not the one you're thinking of, but the next one. That's like a little tagline I've been workshopping. But yeah, so Planet Nibiru as a name, as a lore, just as a brand, it actually comes from my love of, I guess you could say, conspiracy theories and deep esotericism and stoicism and all these type of things. But the story goes that from what us as common human beings, the farthest back like language and modern civilization that we can point to would be ancient Sumeria. A lot of people have heard that that's where the first written language was. That's where like a lot of the modern day civilization things that bring us together as a community. It started there, as far as this most recent iteration of human civilization. With that being said, if we go into the mythos and the mythology that let me do this. If we go into the mythology of what those people believed in, they believed in um I guess you could say a seed theory. And the seed theory is that if you go into like Christianity, the Bible story and the origin story, and that would be Adam and Eve type of thing, right? So God made Adam, then he made Eve, and then they were able to procreate, and that's how we populate the world with the modern humans, right?
Okay.
Ancient Sumerians believed that not God per se, but higher, more intelligent beings, what I consider just higher level humans, they came down and they were the ones that were seeding and experimenting and gene splicing with the already existing hominid here to make what's called Homo sapien sapien, the modern day human. We were here and made, and I don't know if you ever looked into like geneticism and stuff, but
Yeah.
so as humans, we have what's called telomeres, and currently our DNA is called as they're capped. The telomeres are capped, and what that means is that's how we get to we only live around 120 years at the
Say,
most.
aren't they related to like age as it kind of get like longer or shorter or something like that? Okay.
Yep, so if you imagine whatever it is that has you aging, if that was uncapped, if there was that's how you get the Bible stories of John lived 5,000 years or,
Okay.
these type of things versus now you got about 100 years, 120 years, and then that's about it. You're not going past that. That from what the ancient Sumerians believed would be the telomere capping and the gene splicing and the creation of the modern day human Homo sapien.
Okay.
Now, as far as Planet Nibiru, where that name comes in is Planet Nibiru or Sirius B or Planet X. This is the home station slash planet of these supreme beings that came to Earth and did this gene splicing and things like that. The gods or the god that you worship actually has a home that enters our solar system every 2,000 to 3,200 years. That
Okay.
is Planet Nibiru, Planet Sirius B, Planet X. They're all different names for the same thing. And to me, how it forms with cannabis is okay, this is something that comes in and out every so often. And to the uninitiated, to the unworthy, as you could say, it's something that is scary. It's magical. It's devil worship or whatever it may be, the devil's lettuce. That's what Planet Nibiru represents to me. And so bringing that and making that my brand is what I want to do in the cannabis industry is not only to educate, but to show people that just because you don't understand something or because it may seem fearful doesn't mean you have to be fearful. To me, fear is
Mhm.
just the sense of unknowing, like having a lack of information. Like if you don't know something, you're naturally going to be fearful of it, right? I see a lot of that when it comes to cannabis and the cannabis industry. So Planet Nibiru is here to quell those fears and educate the people.
I really like that, man. I like how you connected it with cannabis too. That's really interesting. Um, 'Cause I was kinda diving into it a little bit, like I said beforehand, and what really intrigued me was kinda like the gene editing and stuff like that, and it made me think
Mhm.
as like, as growers, that's kinda what we're doing when we're doing a pheno hunt or,
Mhm.
searching for that keeper pheno, and it made me also think back to taking, like, biology classes and just how crazy complex the human body is. I remember thinking to myself, like, I came into this class as almost like an atheist, and now I'm like, oh, there's some aspect of intelligent design to this. There's just some crazy shit that the human body goes through, and like
Yeah,
all
yeah.
these like connections. Is that really a coincidence? I don't know. I mean, we had millions of years to evolve, and I guess kind of fuck around, and find out, and see
Yeah,
what
exactly.
works. But there's like a quote that I like. It was like, going into science, you kind of think that like God doesn't exist or anything like that. And then after
Mhm.
science, it's like, oh, there might be something else out there. Who knows? And it kind of is anti scientific when you think about it.
Yep.
But I don't know. I just think it's really cool. You mentioned a little bit about education. That's something that I really liked too when I was kind of browsing through your Instagram. It seemed like kind of a common theme there. And that's something that I try to do just as much as I can as well. Um,
Right.
where do you see kind of like the biggest need for education? Because I mean, I could point to a million different directions, but I'm
Right.
curious, kind of like in your eyes, where do you see cannabis education evolving and where are we lacking?
Well, as far as where we're lacking is at every interaction level of human to plant. So whether that's on the grow side, whether that's on the retail side, whether that's on the curator slash distro side, wherever level that the human being is interacting with the plant is where we're lacking when it comes to education. That doesn't mean that there aren't experts. That doesn't mean that there isn't that one guy, gas station Bob, as some people like to call him, that knows everything, above and under the sun. But if he is not able to host an interaction to the uninitiated every single time, then there is a lack or need for more education. And things like reading is fundamental. So when we have weird, wacky laws, like I think it was like maybe in Florida somewhere or something, to where they couldn't have like full names of strain names on the actual bottles. So like let's say the strain name was Gatorweed or something like that, it would be GTRWD, and it's like, well, what the fuck is that? How am I
Yeah,
supposed to identify that? So, but
right.
reading is fundamental. So if I can't even read or understand what it is, then how am I supposed to know what it's supposed to do? Like just silly shit like that. But for me, I think where I'm gonna make the most difference is gonna be on the dispensary level, on the retail level. So, because at some point, if you live in a legal state, you're gonna go into a dispensary. You're gonna find somebody that works in the industry. Like it's gonna happen, whether you've been a long time smoker or just enthusiast, or if you're gonna be that guy that's like, hey, it's legal now. I could try it. Let's go figure it out and see what it's about. That's where I plan to make the biggest difference, as far as educating and bringing information to the forefront. That's also a thing that I believe in. It's just like information is information. It can be good or bad. You got malinformation, misinformation, disinformation. Like you have misinformation. You have
Yeah,
all these
we
different
got a lot
forms
of
of
that.
information. Information is information, right? So I just want to present you with that information and you can find your own truth in whatever it is being presented to you. But once you have truth within information, that becomes knowledge. Now you know something because in your heart, in your brain, it's true. You've taken the information and you have doubled down on it in your psychology. So now that is knowledge. But knowledge itself is power, but it's unprocessed power. You still have to apply that knowledge from there. That's how you get to wisdom.
Oh, I like
So,
that.
you start with information
Yep.
and then you have to find the truth in that. Once you find the truth, then that's how you know it's real. You know it becomes knowledge. But even knowledge within itself, if it's left idle, it doesn't do anything. You still have to apply the knowledge, and that would be wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge applied.
So what does that look like then at the retail dispensary level? Is it just having educated bud tenders available to answer questions? Is it like community seminars? Or I'm curious kind of how you see relaying that information to the consumer, because one thing that I found as a bud tender is you can teach all day long, and
Hmm.
if the person's not willing to listen, good luck.
Yeah, that just won't be a fit for me, honestly. You can kind of cut that in the bud by the interview and the hiring process. I mean, why would you? I'm not even gonna unless I'm inheriting something, like, if I was buying an already existing store or something, that'd be different, right? I'm gonna do my best effort to try to cultivate that type of experience, but consider I'm starting something from the ground up, they just won't even be a factor in the conversation if you ask me, and to some people, that may sound, like, really harsh, but I have a mission, I have a plan. I'm doing things, as kids like to say, I'm doing things, and I wanna be able to do the thing. So if you are impeding the thing from being done, then you can't work for me.
Fair enough.
And what that looks like is just having very educated and willing to learn people. Like, this is like, to me also, spreading information and learning is a two-way process, right? I have to say whatever I'm saying. You have to actively listen and process that. And then you may have something to add that then now I'm learning. So it has to be a two-way street. So I don't want a bunch of know-it-alls behind the counter, you know? I want people that are educated and have loads of information, but are able to discern and be confident in themselves to gain that truth for themselves, but also be looking for that from the consumer. So what that'll look like as well is I do plan to be a MSO, multi-state operator, but each location within its city, hopefully I can survive with just having one location per city. But that location specifically is going to be built upon inventory wise the community around them. So if everybody keeps coming in and out and asking for, You guys don't have that blue dog Naruto star, you don't have that?" I'll be like, "No, we don't have that, but where are we getting who's growing that? What is that?" And then now we're gonna go and search, find the best cut of it, and bring that into our process. But that specific community is gonna get whatever it needs and wants based upon just the feedback we get from from the consumer. So over a year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year period, this inventory section is going to be very different versus somewhere that's just a town over or a city over or things like that because it was built by the community. But to do that, you have to place people in position to not only be able to educate, but to be educated themselves and be able to listen. So I need listeners. I need nerds, honestly. I need people that like just want to learn just
Weed
for the
nerds.
fuck ton of it. Yeah, I need those. I need people that are willing to learn and want to learn, and other than that, that would be it. Great attitude, be willing to learn, and be a little nerdy. That'll
I
be the
love it.
perfect Planet Nibiru customer and employee.
Do you have like a favorite spot that you like to get your research and resources? One of the things that I like to do is you can actually subscribe to daily email alerts from Google Scholar based on just whatever keyword. So I'll have like cannabis or hemp. I do a lot on the cannabis vape side, so cannabis vapes and cannabis extractions. And every day I'll get, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 studies that have or reference that keyword, and it's a really good way to kind of stay on top of the studies. I probably maybe read 1 or 2 a week out of that, and
Okay.
have built up like a nice little saved repository or database of research. And that's really like one good way I like to stay on top of everything on the market. But I'm always looking for new spots, and I'm always interested in kind of where people are getting their information from. Kind of curious, kind of where you like to go for the latest research.
Well, for me, one, I'm going to start doing what you just did for the Google Scholar. I'm definitely going to start doing that because I think for me personally, that's probably where I'm lacking as far as using the tools that are available to me. But what I like to do is I go straight for what has always worked, which when it comes to our attaining information and studies and knowing where we're at currently, I go to books. So your
Okay.
local library, believe it or not, they have some books on cannabis and growing tomatoes,
Nice.
quote unquote, and all
Yep.
those type of things in there. So to me, yeah, I can go on the internet and I can listen to a podcast or read this article and things like that. Not to say that that's not good, but there's a whole backlog of information that
Yep.
me being a 28-year-old male in America that hasn't read those things, I to me it would be doing a disservice. What about the folks that didn't have the internet? Like I
Right.
bet they had some good gems. There's some good gems that never made it to the internet. So for me personally, where I start is reading, and by reading it could be an audiobook, it could be just me googling the title slash PDF and then reading it that way. So I don't always buy my books. I don't know
Yeah.
if you ever like met anybody that's like an avid reader. They get really pissed when people don't buy the books, and it's like I'm sorry,
Sometimes those
it
are
is what it is.
expensive,
If I
man.
could steal gas from the gas station, I'd do it. I'm sorry, but
Right? Hey, in this economy, man. So have you found any really good books? Because one that I really like to recommend to, I would say more the newer people in cannabis, or maybe people that are looking to dispel myths,
Mhm.
is Reefer Wellness by Dr. Riley Kirk. She's also Cannon by Chem on Instagram. Um,
Okay,
I
yeah.
I've got it sitting right next to me, but it's buried under a stack of other books, or else I dig it out to show it. But that one's a really good one that I like. I try to read every day. So um,
Yep.
not always cannabis books, but have you found a good maybe cannabis or tomato book that really kinda helped?
Well, for me, clearly being some would call it African American, I consider myself a Black American, Black individual. There is a book called I think it's the Ancient Roots of Marijuana, the African
Okay.
Roots of Marijuana. So to me, whether you believe, okay, we all came from Africa, or that, to me, Africa and African culture is one of the oldest that still exists today. So I point that same way with like Chinese culture, because they have a deep, rich cannabis history
Yep.
too as well, right? So, in the ancient roots of marijuana's book, it was very interesting on the different use cases of it, and it really puts you into perspective of their culture as far as like what people will consider with Native Americans. They use every piece. Everything has a specific purpose. So for them in the ancient roots of marijuana, they would of course grind down the buds, but then they knew the difference between your hemp and your marijuana plants and how they broke it down, and they would use like the stems, the big stalks, and they would crush those down to kind of make your hempcrete and things like that. That book really opened up to my eyes as far as also just my learning love language of just going back and finding things and seeing how people we did things in the past. Because if it already worked and we moved past it, then there was something about that with the information I can take now from the internet and things that I can improve upon. But for me, definitely the ancient roots of marijuana. It's a yellow and green book, has like a
Okay.
dark skinned guy messing around in some dirt or something on the front of it. But that is an awesome title. It's an awesome book.
I might have to check that one out. Hempcrete, that definitely interests me. I think especially as we move towards more of a global industry with cannabis
Mhm.
and move beyond just psychoactive cannabis use, or even medicinal cannabis use, and getting into textiles or building materials. I think there's so many uses for this plant that we just barely touched on right now. And so I'm really interested to see kind of how that side of thing progress. But as far as kind of what you're doing in, what was it, Ohio? You mentioned you want to do
Yeah, so we're starting out
multi-state,
in
but
Cincinnati in Ohio.
okay. What made you choose Ohio?
Well, so I am actually a Kentucky native. That's
Okay.
actually where I'm from. So right across the pond, I guess you could say. Cincinnati is less than an hour away from the city of Louisville, where I'm currently based.
Okay.
Um, what happened, and I'm gonna get into politics a little bit, I guess you could say, but what happened was the state of Kentucky, once the legislation got passed that we were going to legalize marijuana sales, at least for medicinal, well, they weren't supposed to be accepting applications and all those type of things until January 1st of 2025.
Okay.
Now, hear me out, and let me know if you ever heard of anything like this when it comes to cannabis and legalization. out of nowhere, they announced that they turns out they are 6 months ahead of schedule when it comes to licensing and things, that they're gonna open up the licensing application 6 months before they had announced it.
Yeah, and
So
I've always
instead of
seen
it
it behind. They're always slow as shit
right? I
on
mean, we're talking about
that's
pot,
crazy.
guys.
Yeah, I've never
So
heard of them being ahead of schedule. I wish that could be
ahead of schedule, 6 months ahead of
that's
schedule?
crazy.
Right, so that's what I said, and I love everybody's reaction when I say that. But, yeah, so turns out that we were 6 months ahead of schedule, so they started accepting applications in July 1st. Well, that was 6 months less on me getting my shit together, me getting the real estate, me getting my funding, everything in place. Like I literally, they chopped 6 months off, and
Mhm.
that only benefited the people who were already in place, like the bigger corporations and stuff like that. Because we have cannabis companies that deal with the hemp side and things like that. Kind of
Right.
ran through that 2018 loophole, which they're still operating to this day. More power to them. But those people already had the money. They already have their opportunity. They would have been first in line either way.
Yep.
So
So I
to
thought I read an
me, that was like, okay, this city or at least this area is already bought and paid for. What other opportunities can I have? And just so happened at the same time, Cincinnati or Ohio, they had just went recreational. So what I know that comes with recreation, or at least new legalization, becomes new rounds of application. I was like, well, I have plenty of time before that because they haven't even announced when the applications or when that stuff is opening. I just have my own timeline of when I would like to have everything and do a grand opening.
okay.
Even if I have to push that back, but because I'm able to be so far ahead, I'll be in good positioning. Unless they just somehow end up 6 months ahead of schedule too, then I
Right.
might just say fuck it and throw my hands in the air. But yeah, that's why Ohio.
Interesting. So I thought I read an article the other week that was it Kansas or Kentucky? I thought it was Kentucky. I had a medicinal dispensary and they like sold out within the first day of being open, the whole
Oh
state.
yeah,
Was that Kentucky?
I believe it was Kentucky. So we just
Okay.
had our first medical dispensary open up in Beaver Dam, Kentucky. It was called the Post Dispensary, and yeah, the line was wrapped around the building
I mean, it doesn't
pretty
shock
much the whole
me,
day.
but it's crazy that you'd sell out within the first day.
Yeah, how do you sell out medicines medically, you know?
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I, I think that
What do you
that
mean?
just goes to show that we should just push for recreational use and cut the
Yeah.
BS.
I
So
mean,
if
I
you
could
could,
buy 100 count of Benadryls over the counter right now, nobody's stopping
yeah,
me.
right.
So yeah, but
So
I do believe that was Kentucky. That they definitely Kentucky and Ohio as well. We have a long history when it comes to hemp and just agriculture in general. That's also a beauty of opening up in Ohio is, especially now currently, there's like a meme culture around Ohio. It's like, oh, you're from Ohio, like it's like a negative thing. But if you never lived or have traveled to Middle America, there's so much flavor and influence coming from so
there
many different
is.
places that it's really its own unique place. So I think cannabis is a perfect opportunity for Ohio specifically to make a name for itself to where like, who do you know or what do you know from Ohio besides Joe Burrow and the Bengals?
Right. I briefly lived in Columbus for a couple months and I
Oh,
started to
nice.
really like that city, but the cannabis laws, I could not figure it out. I mean,
Yep.
whether it's not being able to sell 8 ounces, you have to do 10 ounces or
Yep.
the THC caps and limited licenses. I was like, guys, this is tough.
Yeah,
Um,
don't get me
it's an
started.
interesting market though. Uh, beyond Ohio, you said you want to be multi-state. What other states interest you?
Every single one of them. Specifically as far I go off of so legalization and actual policy aside, I go by the culture, like the cannabis culture wherever they're at and like what I like about that. So definitely in Michigan, Detroit, anywhere in that area. I hear Florida's pretty got some good stuff going as far as like the different flavors. The originators of the OG, I believe that's ocean grown. I think that's where that came out of.
Okay.
Yeah, was somewhere out of Florida. Colorado. Now, anybody from Colorado or that lives in Colorado, don't hate me, but we all know the humidity is fucking piss poor up there in those mountains. So a lot of the flower doesn't survive on the shelf life. But what I noticed was, okay, them knowing that, they have some really great edibles. They have some unique concoctions and flavors and THC infusions that I never
That's
would have even
interesting.
thought of.
I've
So
never
just
been
the
out that
culture
way.
surrounding that, yeah, it's pretty interesting. So those would be some few places: Florida, Michigan, and Colorado.
Okay. Detroit, I definitely cannot wait to get back down to Detroit. I've been searching for a job in the Michigan
Yep.
market, and no one wants to hire right now because of that 24% tax we just slapped on.
Yeah.
So I've been keeping my eyes open for something in the Ann Arbor, Detroit area. There
Hell
is
yeah.
an
Ann Arbor's
interesting
where it's
cannabis
at.
culture in Southeast Michigan. Yep. I was born and raised in the Ann Arbor area, so that
Nice.
it holds a special spot in my heart. And as like a diehard Michigan fan, it felt so weird living in Columbus, but
Yep.
I got over that. Um,
Yeah, hell is
so
hot, man. Hell is hot. So
yeah, when do you guys think that you'll be opening? I think you mentioned towards the end of the year. What's that kind of
Mhm.
look like, or is it just raising capital, or kind of take me along that journey? Because I tried to raise capital for a growing lab, and I commend you, man. It is a brutal thing to do to try to raise funds right now in the cannabis market.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely has been a challenge. Our goal is my timeline is Halloween 2026 grand opening. So that way, because Halloween is my favorite holiday. I'm also a Libra, so my birthday's in October. So my birthday's the 21st. So
Okay.
around my birthday is when I want to have my friends and family soft opening and then do a grand opening, give away a whole bunch of product for the best costume and cost like candy and stuff. Candy and cannabis, it all just comes together. So ideally, Halloween of this year, 2026, is when we plan to do the grand opening. That does come down to the funding, but that's also comes down to legislation, right? Because I could have all the funding in the world, where am I going to put it if I can't apply,
Facts.
if I can't do anything? So it's kind of like that whole song and dance. The way I look at it is I'm always accepting funding. Hey, if you're willing to give the money, I'm willing to take it. I'm smart enough as an entrepreneur, and something that I do as like my day job is actually help entrepreneurs and different people go from no business to small business to medium business. Specifically, those pitfalls as far as like you want to do something, you just don't know what to do. Nine times out of 10, I personally have already done it. So I'm going to be able to let you know and be a resource to you as far as what you probably should do to get to whatever that next step is. My problem professionally has always come us like, okay, well, you have such great ideas, and I'm sure if I followed them, you know, I would have so success. But where's your success? And I'm like, you know what? You're so right. I'm such a humble, laid back guy that I'm happy seeing everybody else win, but I haven't built anything sustainable. I'm only 28 for myself. So that's where Planet Nebiru and cannabis, something as that I'm as passionate about, comes into play as far as me really putting my foot down and being unafraid to take on those challenges. A little bit of a tidbit here. Anybody who is looking for sponsorship or looking for funding, know your numbers, know exactly what you need. That was the biggest feedback that I've gotten. They're like, "You're all over the place." I'm like, "I'm not all over the place. You asked me 15 different questions and I'm trying to,
Yep.
bring it all into one." He was like, "No, you should be so entrenched in the numbers that you have one answer. How
That
much
and then
money do
have
you
a
need?
really
$338,452.78." Like, you need to be that locked
yep.
in for an investor to be ready to hand you that money. So a little bit of tip.
Exact, and then quick on your pitch. That's one thing that I
Yep.
struggled with was I just couldn't find a good way to wrap it up, and I even found myself in a legitimate elevator pitch scenario, and I'm like, I thought these
Yep.
things died in the '90s. I was with my, co-founder in LA at Gary Vaynerchuk's, VCon, and one of the speakers was a big real estate guy worth tons of
Oh,
money,
shit.
and, just through happens chance found myself in an elevator next to him and shot my shot at, fuck it, let's see if this guy wants to invest. And
Right.
it was a it was not a fun time, I'll say that. It didn't go well. But that's where I was like, I learned from that. I'm like, okay,
Yep.
we gotta actually know this shit and really put in the practice on a short elevator pitch because we could talk for hours about our businesses, right? This is
Yep.
our
Exactly.
babies. Like we could go on for hours, but these guys have such finite amount of time and you really got to be able to capture their attention quickly.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
So with that said, do you have a quick elevator pitch to put you on the spot?
Oh, yeah,
You
for
don't
sure.
have to
Put
if
me
you
on the
don't
spot,
want to,
man.
but yeah, I figured I'd give you the shot. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I could do my best. So let me gather my thoughts for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, my name is DJ. I am the founder and owner of Planet Nebiru. Basically, what we are a cannabis education and retail platform. And what we do is we bring education, we present information, and we bring great bud at the same time. So what does that look like? Well, whatever you need, whether it's edibles, concentrates, flour, anything that you could possibly be interested in. We also do curated events. Let us know. Hit us up. You can go to planetnibiru.com or you can find us anywhere on social media at Nibiru Cannabis or Planet Nibiru. That is Nebiru, not Nibiru. For those who are want to get into semantics, but yeah, we're a cannabis education and retail platform.
Boom. I love it. So I'm curious, why the E and not the I? That was one thing I noticed too. And
Yep.
I wanted to kind of ask you, was that intentional?
It was intentional because I have ADHD and I worry about the little things. And
Okay.
I'm glad that you saw that because
Hmm.
that just brings us to this certain room, right? It's this certain realm of information. I know what you were looking at and I know what you were studying to know that the NI is actually probably the closest to what it is. But changing it just because I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, you just copied off of this." It's like, "No, I took inspiration from it, and matter of fact, I studied it to the T to where, like, I don't wanna disturb this information, let me just change it to an E instead of an I."
Okay.
So it's specifically just to nitpick that much and to be like, "Oh, you know, okay, well, now I can tell you why," and yeah.
Yeah, a little differentiator. I like that.
Yeah. So it's not too complicated or too crazy, but I like that you noticed that because that really means that you were in the weeds and really trying to learn the semantics on what the fuck people like me are talking about, so
In full transparency, it was my autocorrect that noticed it,
oh, yep, mhm.
but still, I mean, it was something that it highlighted it on my phone then, and it made me then go back to your Instagram and verify it, so maybe that's a strategic marketing thing on your part because I then had to get extra exposure to your account to see if I was right or wrong.
Yeah, it was one of those things to where like, okay, well, if somebody does know, if they're deep into this Sumerian mythology and stuff like that, they're gonna know that I purposely changed the I to an E for that reason. So, and if you don't know, you're gonna struggle pronouncing it either way with an E or an I. So it doesn't really make any difference to your average consumer. But for
Yep.
those that know, it's just an extra little sprinkle on top of the cupcake.
Nice. Well, is there anything else that you kinda wanted to add on there? I know I wanted to touch on education, which we did for a little bit,
Mhm.
and we got a good look at kind of what Planet Nebiru is and who you are. M maybe, like, how what got you into cannabis? Learn more about yourself because this is our first time meeting as
Oh
well.
yeah. So for me, how I got into cannabis, it's pretty much I would say a classic story. I just found my way into a joint at about 13 years old. That somewhere between seventh and eighth grade, I believe, is when I started, and just never looked back. We were at a water park, and there were these woods outside of the water park that my buddy had a bowl. Now this is a little bit of a what do you call it? Damage control, I guess you could say, or at least I'm trying to save somebody's life. So the first thing I
Mhm.
smoked actually wasn't pot. It was actually what was called probation weed at the time, which turned out to be
Okay.
K2/spice.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. So I didn't know the difference, right? So when
Mhm.
that happened, I smoked it, didn't feel anything, but like you ever seen like a terrible 80s movie or something to where they have
Oh,
this
yeah.
like color filter on everything?
Yep.
As soon as I got into the water, everything had like a red filter. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, this
that's
is
not
not
good.
good.
Mhm.
So I stayed away from it for a while. But then like once I was able to look at it, what real weed was, I was like, okay, this doesn't look like what I was smoking last time. So let me give
Right.
this a try. Then that's kinda where I fell into it. I actually it's actually funny, I started smoking first, but I'm an asthmatic, so I've actually gotten away from actually inhalants and really more on the edible side and, like, the topicals.
Okay.
But actually what I figured out was once I started working in the industry is that, certain terpenes and things like CBD are actual bronchodilators, so that coughing and things, that's actually unless you're smoking, like, actual tobacco, like blunts or stuff like that, that's actually clearing up your lungs and your inside. That's why you're coughing. You're just like, "Weed makes me cough." It's like, well, you probably need to clear out your lungs. It's probably,
Right.
something
Yeah,
in
I
there that needs to
know
come out.
it's like alpha-pinene, I believe, is the terpene that acts as a
Yep,
bronchodilator, so
yep. And that's big in like your like Blue Dreams and stuff like that too. Blue Dream is like one of my favorite strains of all time. It's kind of like almost like a hazy type of thing, but yeah.
yeah, Blue Dream's its own unique kinda cut, and you can always tell when someone's got the real Blue Dream compared to when they
Hmm.
try to pass one off, like, if you ever smelled it, it's so hard to describe.
Yeah, it's like a sweets but like floral type of thing going on. Yeah, it's really unique. And I haven't had it in a while, but those are like to continue the conversation on what got me into cannabis, it would be like High Times and like the magazines and just kind of the culture around it. I've always been really big into cannabis culture and like counterculture. Something that I've noticed is that whether I was into gaming or like super into music, I'm also a hip hop head. And if I was into like skating or Pokemon or whatever it may be, Magic the Gathering, whatever I was interested in, pot was in between that as far as the social glue, I guess you could say. So I
It
thought that was really interesting. So for me, noticing that early, I was like, okay, well, I can just keep smoking pot and I'll always have friends.
I like that, yeah, cannabis, it brings together all types. It seems like there's not one set stoner, right? I mean, like, you've got your stereotypical kind of like hippie, but you've also got like your skater. I know a lot of nerdy people that smoke weed. I know professors that smoke weed. I mean, it's
Yep, you would
like,
never guess it.
yeah, nowadays you have your soccer moms that are consuming drinks and gummies like my
Hmm.
grandparents consume. So it's like there's no real set demographic anymore, I think, to cannabis. And that's really cool to see.
I would agree. It's a beautiful thing, and hopefully it grows even more. What happened here in Kentucky as well, the reason why it took so long for legislation is because we are very big. Have you ever been to, like, a bourbon distillery or anything like that? You ever done, like, a tour
No,
like that? Okay,
no.
so imagine wine, but for bourbon. So
Okay.
you know how you can go to the vineyard and stomp the grapes and all those type
Hmm.
of things. There's an entire industry like that for bourbon and whiskey, and so
Okay.
we actually have, like, a lot of distilleries and things like that in Kentucky, and, of course, we have a long agricultural tie to tobacco as well. So those 2 major industries were both combining forces to lobby against, cannabis, so that's one reason why it took so long. But with that being said, what they weren't understanding is pot isn't gonna replace anything. If you're going out to the bar to drink your favorite bourbon, whether you step outside to smoke a cigarette or you step outside to smoke a J, you're gonna do whatever it is you wanna do. They actually enhance the experience of both, if you're asking me. Because I know a lot of stoners that like their darks as well. They like, they
Yeah.
like a good tobacco buzz. I mean, I was a blunt smoker myself for the longest, so I know the nicotine buzz and all the how it kinda the entourage effect of that. That plus cannabis,
Yep.
some people don't really like to talk about. But when it comes to the actual experience, pot only adds to it. Like cannabis is just an enhancer. It's not anything to replace anything. If you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic, unfortunately. If you're addicted to tobacco, you're addicted to tobacco. But cannabis can help for better and for worse. So
Oh, I
I thought that was
completely
interesting.
agree. Where do you see Kentucky kind of going as a state? Is it going to move more towards like what we see in these other states, forming an actual med or rec market, or do you think those interests are too strong that going to kind of keep it out?
I think I think what's gonna surprise people is, like, I talk about Colorado and Michigan as far as, like, the weed culture there to where they're very, like, in-house, like, "No, this is Michigan weed. This is what we do." I think Kentucky is gonna go completely opposite of that, and they're gonna go
Interesting.
full retail corporatization because you gotta imagine so we're technically in the South, but I consider us Middle America. Um we have so many natural influences just by proximity of geography that we're so used to being behind on things that now as we move into, I guess you could say, middle America's modern era, we wanna bring in as much money and tourism and posh vibes, I guess you could say, as soon as quick as possible. I think,
Okay.
I know a few movers and shakers in my city, that are, like, in the real estate development, and when I say real estate, I'm not talking about houses, I'm talking about actual commercial projects and office buildings, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, talking to those guys, they see a plan to where they wanna make Louisville, Kentucky the Vegas of the East Coast.
Okay.
So even though we're still inland, they also want to bring up the tourism and the casinos and all that type of thing, bring that here. Because some people on the West feel like Vegas and California and that thing is dying. Well, what's going to replace it? Good old Southern charm. Well, there's a lot of money to be made in that. So that's where I think places like Kentucky are going. We're going to go like we're going to be not the new California, but we're going to be a lot more posh and retail and more touristy than what
Okay.
people may expect as far as Kentucky. We're down home, we're Kentucky, we're Southern, this is us, and we're gonna do what we wanna do. Like, I don't think it's that at all. Being as a person on the ground here, no, we're ready for whatever works and whatever money comes in. You
How
could buy
far out do you
Kentucky
think
right
that
now if you had
is?
a dollar amount.
Really?
Yeah, I swear you could.
Do you think that's pretty close or still a ways out?
Uh, yeah, I can give it 10, 20 years. It depends. It
Okay.
depends on so like a lot of when it comes to the wealth transfer that's going on here in Kentucky, a lot of your younger millionaires, like, I guess you could say the younger recipients of old money are the movers and shakers. They're gonna be the determining factors, or do they finish out this 100-year plan, or do they just say, "Fuck it,
Mhm.
I wanna open up a cat cafe or something," it's really up to those people.
Okay.
So in 10, 20 years, we'll definitely will see a change, but my money's on where the money is. That's gonna be tourism, that's gonna be, posh, nice gentrification type of vibes. I think Southern charm is gonna be for sale considering we're not really even deep South. We're where the South starts, but to me, that means we're Middle America because we touch so many different areas.
That's true.
So we're gonna have that Southern charm for sale, is what I would say.
Okay. That's interesting. Well, is there anything else that you want to add? I really, like I said, we didn't really come into this with any topics, and I'm still learning the whole kind of podcasting thing myself, getting better at this. Maybe I should have some topics going into this so that it doesn't feel like just an interview or something like that. But if there's anything else you want to say, man, feel free to. If not, might as well. We could wrap this up. Been going for
I think
about
I
40 minutes.
Yeah, I
But
think that's
yeah,
perfect, honestly. I think
awesome.
for me, I've said everything that I could possibly want to say off the top of my head. If you guys do have any type of questions, or if you would like to continue the conversation on anything that we and Alex have talked about today, hit us up. He can send you to me, or you can follow me directly. You can go to planetnebiru.com. That is Nebiru.com. Or you can follow us on Instagram, Planet Nebiru / Nebiru Cannabis. Be on the lookout for anything we may be doing. We are going to drop a merch line that's going to be way different. It is going to be its own clothing line. It isn't just going to be my logo on a shirt. We are also dropping some pretty cool merch with some utility as well. So I'll make sure to get your size and get you some samples.
Well, nice. Thank you. And I appreciate you being on, man. And if you guys are still watching, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, leave your
Yep.
feedback. Let me know what you want to see, guest you want to have on. And with that, I will leave you guys. Have a great day.
See you guys.